Hey, when you're live. Oh, we're live. There we go. Maybe a bit. Oh, I have to mute here. There we go. So, and I will turn my video on. Good evening. I want to welcome everyone to our Safe Water Advisory Group meeting for April 20th. Tonight we're going to do a bit of a, for the most part, a rehearsal of some of the items we're going to cover for our water forum on May the 3rd. So I am Brian Getz, the co-chair of the committee, and on Zoom we have Andrea Miko and Al Pratt. So Andrea, if you want to say hello.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Andrea Miko, co-chair of the Safe Water Advisory Group.
Thank you. And Al?
Hello, Al Pratt, Water Resource Manager. Making sure you can hear me okay.
Hearing you good. Thank you.
Good.
And in the room, if Kevin can switch to the room. Oh, good, Kevin. So we're learning how Zoom and the whole thing works there. So we have Assistant Chief Bill McQuillan with us, Counselor Vince Lombardi with us, and also David Muse. So thank you all for coming. And what we're going to do is kind of work through some of the technology and give you a taste of how the Water Forum is going to progress. And we've got 2 weeks to go, so we'll be able to revise based on how some of this goes and also take suggestions. And you know, just yesterday we announced the forum, so we're really going to be pushing now to get the word out to everybody. So thanks for coming. We do have a mobile mic here, so if you want to participate that way, we'll do that. But first off, let me pull up for Andrea the agenda. So I get to shift here. So Kim is sending me a message that, oh, I think I need to let Kim into participants, attendees, more, promote the panelists. So we've got Kim McNamara, we have Laurel Shader coming in, Rebecca Perkins Quokka, panelists, and so we'll go back to stop share so we can welcome a few other people to the meeting. Let me promote the panelists, Rebecca. There we go, finally. Took 3 times was a charm. Senator, didn't want to let you go to panelists. So, well, welcome the rest of you. Brian Getz here. We have Andrea Miko and Al Pratt that have already introduced themselves, and we're kind of going around the Zoom room here with introductions and making sure everybody can speak. And I have introduced the 3 members that are in the room beside myself. David Muse, Counselor Vince Lombardi, and Assistant Chief Bill McQuillan. So, Laurel?
Hi, everyone. This is Laurel Shader, Senior Scientist at Silent Spring Institute.
Great. Senator Perkins Quokka?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Senator Rebecca Perkins Quokka, representing Portsmouth and surrounding towns.
All right, thank you. And Kim? No audio, Kim. You're unmuted. This has happened to other people before. You might have to log out and log back in. So while Kim is doing that for Laurel and Rebecca, we are meeting sort of this hybrid setup. I'm sitting at a table here in the conference room, and what we're doing is prepping for the May 3rd Water Forum, and the Water Forum is going to be here held at Council Chambers. So we've got some technologies we're trying to do to be able to allow, number one, some remote viewing, but also interactive polling, and we're going to show some videos. And so tonight we're going to do a little bit of that besides the meeting. So hopefully if we can get Kim back on, waiting for her to log back in. This happens, the Zoom world, I'm sure you've all, I know Al's had this issue where he's logged in and tried to say something and then he has to log in again. I don't see Kim showing back up yet. And we do have, I'm looking in the chat, Stephanie Secord, thank you, our always diligent meeting taker. Thank you, Stephanie. And we will hope to get Kim back on board somehow. So maybe when we do the May 3rd meeting, we might allow everybody to get in about 15 minutes early if they're going to be Zooming, because this is always tends to be the one thing that causes a glitch. Well, let me, we'll just hope that Kim can make it back in. When she does, Al, if you can keep an eye on the attendees and just let her, promote her to a panelist when she comes in. So Andrea, I will turn this over to you and we can go through what we're going to talk about tonight.
Great. Thank you so much. Welcome everybody. Nice to be with you, even if it's virtually. So for our agenda tonight, as Brian said, I think our main focus is really to review the Drinking Water Forum, try out the technology, look at the format, do it from council chambers so we can kind of get a sense of how it will feel and look on May 3rd when we have it. So that'll be a big portion of our meeting. And then we're also going to hear from State Representative David Muse. He's going to give us an update on some water bills in the New Hampshire legislature. So looking forward to hearing from him on what's going on that front. And then Brian and Al will give a quick update on their quarterly Portsmouth Water System update. I know Brian did email the document out to everybody if you had a chance to take a look, but they'll just give us a quick rundown quarterly of how things are looking. And then we have a brief update for you on the PFPRA, which we talked about at our last meeting. And we'll have Q&A at that point, and we'll open it up for public comment. So before we move into working through some of the Drinking Water Forum items, the first thing we need to do is approve our minutes from the last meeting. I know those did get shared. Brian sent them to the group. And I think we just need someone to make a motion to approve those minutes. Someone's able to do that.
Okay, right here in the room we have a Bill McClellan motioning and a second from Councillor Lombardi. So all in favor?
Yes.
Any nays? No. Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you. And again, very, very big thanks to Stephanie for keeping very good minutes for us.
All right. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Brian to start with some of the forum materials, and I know there's some videos, some interactive polling. He'll take it from here. Yeah, and having people out there in Zoom land will be good too, because we've got a good group here in council chambers, which we do hope for the Water Forum we get a good turnout. One of the things we switched from
originally having this at the library, but we are limited to 30 people there. So there was a concern that, you know, by some good luck, we may end up with 50, 60 people. And if that's the case, we wouldn't want to have to turn them away. But people will have the hybrid setup like we're doing tonight. So we won't have as much interaction. So if people are participating remotely, it's mostly going to be just a watching thing. You'll see through the polling that there will be opportunity for them later in the meeting to ask questions through the polls. So that'll be good. And then Al Pratt will be, his segment he will be zooming in for, but he'll be the only person at the moment for that. So again, on Wednesday, May 3rd, we just issued a press release yesterday on this. It's up on a website. I'm going to, after this meeting, when everything is fully confirmed, agenda-wise and stuff, I will be sending out a whole bunch of notice to our neighboring towns that we serve, Newington, Greenland, Newcastle, Rye, letting them know about the forum. They can spread the word, and then also getting it out to other groups such as the Seacoast Drinking Water Commission and the RAB and others that might be interested. Again, having the hybrid setup will be nice because that enables people the ability to Tuesday, May 3rd. Thank you, Stephanie. See, there she is, keeping on top of things. It's excellent. Again, we hope for a good turnout. It is hosted during National Drinking Water Week, and I'm pulling that up here for the group. So Drinking Water Week, this worked out great. Every year for the last 22, American Waterworks Association and the other associated groups here in New Hampshire. We have New Hampshire Waterworks Association and New England Waterworks. Has a drinking water week, and that week is essentially to promote on the right side, encourage people to appreciate the high quality water and recognize teams dedicated to water professionals, miles of underground cutting edge water treatment combined to ensure that your water is there 24/7, 365 days a year. So we'll be tweeting these kind of things out. I believe we're going to have the mayor. Fortunately, the week of May 3rd on the 2nd is a city council meeting, so we'll be able to actually the night before also promote this, and I believe the mayor is going to, we're going to put forward a proclamation to recognize Drinking Water Week. So the forum itself, we're going to cover topics, and you'll see a little bit of that tonight. We're not going to go through all of what we're going to cover because we'd have 2 hours worth of just the forum tonight. But we're going to give everybody kind of an overview of the water system, where it comes from, some of the history, how the water's tested, future planning. Thank you, Councilor. You had some good comments about we should make sure to talk about the future, so I'm glad to be able to do that. And certainly that is a big aspect of ever since I've been involved with the city doing, and certainly Al implementing, some really good measures that we think, kind of help us for the future. And then we're going to have some polling, videos, PowerPoints, and additional resources. So what we were hoping tonight is just to have you sort of listen and watch a bit and participate when we get to the polling, and then we'll kind of do some Q&A feedback with the whole group. So again, pun intended, dry run through tonight of the forum. So participants are going to be muted, but they will have opportunity to participate during the polling. We are going to record the event, so just like tonight, the good thing of having Kevin, we're on channel 22, and we also will be recording the Zoom, so this will be able to be something we can share for anybody that can't attend that night. And also, since it's a once a year type of thing, it'll be up there for future reference. We're going to have videos of the water system, so to take everybody on a tour of the water system. I know David and Bill came out to Madbury, the water treatment facility, and that was a great day to have them there. Andrea was there, and Cliff Lazenby. So it was great, and I think actually seeing and feeling something is just, there's only so much a PowerPoint can do, and a flyer and that kind of stuff. So we can't take everybody on a tour on May 3rd, but we're going to have some virtual tours, and again, you'll see some of that tonight, but there'll be more of it in the other videos. So the videos and the water system history is going to cover, it'll be about 25, 30 minutes, and then we're going to move into some interactive polling, and the polling is to kind of get everybody in the room involved a bit, and you'll see how that works, and even the people on Zoom will be able to be part of that as well. And then we'll take a break back from the polling to get into more detail about water quality. So this is where Al and our water resource and our water quality specialists will do some more detail about water quality. And then Andrea and Kim McNamara are going to be speaking about contaminants of concern. Predominantly at the moment, our biggest concerns are for lead and PFAS at the moment. And then additional resources for everybody at the meeting about, where can you get more information. We'll promote the Safe Water Advisory Group. We are still looking for another citizen member, so maybe this will prompt somebody to be excited enough to want to join us. And then we'll finish up with some more interactive polling and Q&A. So let me first, I'm going to stop share. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull a video up. And so if anybody's tried to play a video over Zoom, they can be kind of chunky. So in the last 2 days, Al and Kevin, big hats off to Kevin Russell, our technician back there in the booth, we've sort of learned how videos can work. So you have these great technologies, you got iPhones that shoot high resolution videos now, but the thing is they use a lot of data, and the higher resolution, the more data you're going to get. It's just like HD TVs. So Zoom doesn't like that. You have to reduce the quality down a little bit, and then there's a different way to play them through here. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Share Al's video. So Al, prepare yourself. And I'll start.
Hello, I'm Al Pratt. I'm the Water Resource Manager for the City of Portsmouth, and I'm responsible for managing the operations of the water supply. I'm a Grade 3 water operator and a professional engineer licensed in New Hampshire. And as the primary certified operator for the water system, I'm responsible for ensuring that the water quality and the water capacity of the system is in compliance with state and federal requirements and meets our customers' needs. I'm here at the Bellamy Reservoir, which is the source of our surface water. We have a great team of certified operators in the water supply group. We have a chief plant operator, a water treatment foreman, a water quality specialist, and 5 water treatment operators. They each play a critical role in ensuring the drinking water is properly treated, tested, and delivered to customers on the water distribution system. Our work starts at the surface water source in Madbury, the Bellamy Reservoir. This source provides about 60% of the water that's delivered through the Portsmouth water system. We're working to protect land within the Bellamy Reservoir watershed to safeguard its water quality for the long term. Water from the reservoir is treated through a dissolved air flotation and filtration water treatment plant located in Madbury. Chlorine in the form of sodium hypochlorite is added to the water at this facility. We also add fluoride for dental health and phosphate for corrosion control. On average, about 2.7 million gallons of water are treated through the water treatment facility each day. Water is also pumped into the water distribution system from 4 wells located on this property in Madbury. All of this water is pumped to Newington, to the Newington Booster Pumping Station. Here, the water passes through a 1.5 million gallon storage tank. Chlorine is added, and the water is pumped into the city and surrounding towns. There are also 2 groundwater supplies in Portsmouth and 1 well in Greenland that supply water directly into the water distribution system. The pressure in the water system is maintained by 2 water storage tanks. There's the Spinney Road 1 million gallon storage tank and the 7.5 million gallon storage tank located on Constitution Avenue. The demand for water varies throughout the year, with high summer demands peaking around 6 million gallons a day. This is primarily due to irrigation demands in the summer. Our average daily demand in the Portsmouth system is around 3.8 million gallons per day. Our water treatment group is constantly monitoring the supply system and making adjustments to treatment and pumping equipment to ensure the water quality and water pressures are consistent and in compliance with all regulatory rules and internal operational specifications.
Okay. Well done, Al. So that's the first video that Al did that talks about the water system. So we're going to have another one that I'm going to have that does a history of the water system. So it'll be 3 to 5 minutes, and then we're also going to take people out into the water system, the pipes and the network. And then the water system in respect to, being able to fight fires and, supply water day in and day out. And then there's also a video, I know we watched it at our last meeting. We saw a video on the Pease water treatment facility. We've cut that one back to 3 minutes, but it gives people a good overview of the Pease system. So it seems like on Zoom land, they played really nice here. Kevin, when we play the second video, perhaps we can turn the audio up just a little bit. Audio when I'm speaking is pretty good in this room here, but it was just a little faint on the playback of the video. But was it good out there? Great. Okay, so the next part of the meeting will be a poll. So this is where everybody gets to their first chance to get involved with the meeting. So let me share screen again, and everybody can get out either their laptop or your phone. You can do this on your phone, but you need to open a browser, so a browser on your phone, and go to either sli.do or just Slido, and it'll take you to this page, and it's a polling website, and you enter this number 33719, and everybody on Zoom land can do the same thing. You're either going to use your phone or open up another tab on your browser or use a separate computer or did you all get to it? It's not active. All right,
Yeah,
let me.
it's
It's 333-719.
Thank you, Al. 333-719. That's what happens when you do something just 2 minutes before the meeting starts. 333-719. It's like bingo. All right, thank you. That works. All right, so now let me switch screen again. And I'm actually going to go to Slido myself, 333. I'm going to go into it. So, first question. Did everybody see the first question? Do you drink water from the tap? Okay, so you don't see the answers yet because everybody's still voting, but you can see how many people see that little, the 2 people. Yeah, 8 people have responded. 9. I don't know how many total we have. We have 3 here. That should be about it. So the only thing I haven't figured out yet how to make this live on the Zoom without having to vote myself. So do I drink water from the tap? Well, of course I do. So there we go. I'm going to send that response, and then over here I get to show the results. All right. And of course it didn't show. There we go. Show results. There we go. So look at that. Well, we have 70% yes, sometimes 20% and 10% no. So now, next question. What do you drink the most of every day? Three votes. This is a quick one. So you can gauge too. I mean, if we've got 20 people in the room and 10 on Zoom, I would see when it gets close to 30. So I'll vote. You can't, sometimes you can. I mean, the way the poll works, sometimes you can select more than one, but since this is, which is the one you do the most, so show results of that. What do we got? We got, looks like tap water's the winner here, followed by coffee, bottled water. Okay. Our next question. Quality water at your tap. So after this meeting, we'll send all these questions to everybody and we can tweak them and take suggestions. We can get rid of some. These were somewhat tentative setup just to get people. I'm just going to be fair on this one and say it's good. And let's see the results. Good wins, excellent, 40%. I would say good overall, thank you. All right, now we're moving into, this one's a bit more fun for everybody. So you can answer this, but you can answer, once you enter what your concerns are, you actually have an opportunity to say more. And this one's interesting because you can show results, but you have to, so enter if your concern is droughts, rusty water, none, PFAS, lead. All right, we got 6 answers so far.
Brian, if you use this, I think you need to change the wording of the question.
Thank you. Well, that's what.
I think you need to remove check all that apply.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. That's because previously it had a whole bunch of options, and then we switched to this actually letting people do it. So the reason to do this early in the meeting is we actually haven't covered the detailed water quality stuff, so it's kind of like to query the group, get them involved. Why did you come? Oh, these are my concerns. And then hopefully, you know, the second half of the meeting, we're going to answer some of those questions, and then we'll do a second round of polling and people can get more detailed. So what did we end up with? Oh, I have to say something. I'll just say my biggest concern always for the water system is drought. So look at that. Well, drought was number 2. But we've got climate change, adequate supply, the flavor, unknown contaminants, lead, lack of supply, disinfection byproducts, waste, lead, water demand, PFAS, chlorine taste, and PFAS. So that's great. So, and everybody, so on this, you can, I've been at some sessions, I don't know if anybody's been at conferences and stuff where they do this, but it's kind of the charrette type of thing. You can keep adding a response. So I'm going to just keep saying drought. And so drought's going to keep getting bigger. Look at that. And then drought. So then you get people in the room, they're all battling with each other to see how they can make one bigger than the other. But, we may do that during this session. Once it's up, we could say, okay, now of all those things, so here we go. Maybe we'll give this a shot. Of everything you see up there, which is the one thing that you're most concerned about? So we'll see how that works. Yeah, it's going to be a close call between drought and PFAS, I bet. PFAS is winning. You have to be honest and I suppose you could go PFAS. If you're really quick, you're going to make your word very big. So this is kind of the intent. The risk of doing this live like this is you can have the crazies out there wanting to say something a little off color. There is a filter on here that'll filter out the nasty words, but some wackiness could happen. So anyway, we'll move on to the next question real quick. Multiple choice. So this is another one. Which ones of these? So these actually are in New Hampshire, and for our water system, these are probably, I'll just be biased here, I won't say this to the full group, but these are really the biggies here in New Hampshire, and some that hit us a little more so than others. PFAS being the highest one for us, and the others mostly just concerns. Fortunately, we don't have arsenic. We don't. Radon being a surface water source, we're not. 1,4-dioxane, thank you, Andrea. Add that to the list. So again, the intent is after this meeting, I will send out these questions to the whole group and then let everybody provide feedback, because we have 2 weeks to do this. So let me, I'm going to just say PFAS here, and then we'll see the results. So there we go.
Ryan, when we were practicing this, weren't you able to take a quick look at the responsive? So if there was something really offensive, yet it wasn't a commonly known foul word, you
Right.
could edit it before putting it up?
Yeah, I think editing it out, but the good thing is, yeah, you can take things out, but if I were to do that interactive live, that's when you can't do it. I would
see.
rely on the system. So, got a couple to go. I like this one. Does bottled water have to meet the same water quality standards as tap water in Portsmouth? I don't know if the legislatures in the room are allowed to vote on it, because they have an inside track on that. Same with the water system people. Okay, we got 9 responses. Well, I know the correct answer. It's no, and thanks to our delegation, I know the state is trying to work on this to make bottled water quality have to do the same thing regarding testing and notification as public water systems have to do. 2 to go. This one's easy. Do we have to test the water? There we go. And we scored a great 100. So, yeah, that one's not great. And we might just eliminate the question altogether. Yes, thank you. So this one really goes into the rest of the meeting really well. So where do you get your information about local water quality? So that resources word. So where do you get your information? So where do you go? Do you go to, is it a newspaper, is it a website? Do you call? Do you talk to your neighbor? Do you go to Facebook? So go ahead and, this one you can certainly answer more than once. And if you have like 2 words, or like say Facebook and YouTube, just put them in separately. Yes, too many questions. Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I agree. The one just prior to this isn't necessary. This is, tonight, it's mostly to get a flavor for this. So maybe 5 to 6 questions max would be a good thing. So where do I get my information? So I'm going to say from the regulators, just for fun. Let's see what the results are. City website, excellent. Water bill, city website. Oh, somebody did it in 2 words instead of 1, but that's fine. So annual water quality report and water department website. So this is great. So at least the Safe Water Advisory Group comes to us for that information. So that's excellent. So that's kind of that's the gist of this. So again, I'll send the questions out. So the second half of the meeting, so the whole intent was, so there were some water quality questions in there. So our intent is to, in the videos, just give you an overview of the water system. We will say in general, as you saw first, we test the water, but I'll do a second video here real quick. This is Mason, our water quality specialist, and he's got a 3-minute video. And what he's going to do, this is when we'll move into this segment of the meeting, which is water quality.
My name is Mason Caceres, and I'm the water quality analyst for the City of Portsmouth. I'm responsible for monitoring water quality parameters before, during, and after treatment. To meet state and federal regulations and compliance requirements, I collect and analyze water samples throughout the Portsmouth drinking water system, as well as the Peace Port water system. I maintain the Madbury Water Treatment Plant laboratory and all of our in-situ water quality monitors deployed throughout the facility and groundwater source locations. When necessary, I respond to customers' calls and help diagnose their water quality concerns through in-house analyses and investigation reports. Most importantly, it is my duty to manage and maintain drinking water data and annual water quality reports. This data is imperative when assessing the physical, chemical, and biological properties of this invaluable natural resource. Potential contaminants that could have an effect on the health and well-being of consumers are accurately tracked using a variety of analysis methods. Here in the Madbury laboratory, we are able to quantify concentrations of naturally occurring contaminants and common water quality characteristics using benchtop analyzers. Colorimeters help us test for iron, manganese, phosphorus, and chlorine, just to name a few. Spectrophotometers help us test for turbidity and UV254, which are direct measures of the cloudiness of sample water with respect to organic matter. Electrodes are used for pH, alkalinity, and fluoride readings in order to fine-tune chemical additions being made throughout the treatment process. With these in-house analyses and the recorded data that comes of them, we are able to paint a detailed picture of the water quality before and after treatment, and therefore make adjustments to optimize the removal of potentially harmful constituents. We also contract with accredited labs to test for volatile organics, synthetic organics, inorganic compounds such as metals, and bacteria under rules and regulations set forth by New Hampshire's Department of Environmental Services. Information about our water quality testing is available on the city's website under the Public Works Water section. I am also available by phone or email for anyone that wants to know more about their water quality.
Hey. So that's Mason. He's our water quality specialist. He works out of Madbury, and you may see Mason driving about town, filling up sample bottles and that. So we'll have that. Al's segment. I'll turn it over to you, Al. But after Mason does this short video, Al's going to cover a bit more detail as to what the parameters are we sample for. So I'll turn it over to you for a second, Al.
Yeah, sure. So I think my segment here too, I might pre-record this. We're talking about how it'll be safer to have it pre-recorded than me trying to zoom this whole video. But if you don't mind right now, I would like to try to share my screen to see if I can get my presentation to come up quickly here. This is, can you see that?
Yep, there you go.
Very good. So this will be sort of my presentation on general water quality reporting, really starting, talking about what we're doing to manage the water quality right from the reservoir through what we test for and what you can do, learn more about your water. So I'll just scroll through some of my slides. This isn't complete yet, but my plan was to be able to do the pre-recording of this presentation as well. Public notice, how people will hear if there's anything in violation with our water quality. Then I'll get into our reporting and where people, like Mason said in his video, of how you can get more information on your water quality report. So this is obviously not done yet, but that's a work in progress. And that's now be that segment, I believe, on the water quality that we're talking about. Then it goes into further discussion about PFAS and lead, correct?
Right. Then we get into, hang on. Yeah, then after Al, I have to pull up the agenda. Let me share this one. So there's our tentative agenda right now. So we had the overview. So the videos themselves are going to be a little history in the water sources, as Al had. We'll have the video on Pease water treatment. I'm going to have a video with some of the field staff that are out there day to day doing the work in the distribution system and metering and backflow, and also the water efficiency, Think Blue, and future water needs. So how are we addressing those? And again, I think all in all, we're planning about 30 minutes for that. So on the agenda for the meeting, we'll have 10 minutes as intro, 30 minutes for the videos, then the polling will take about 10 minutes. And then this overview, we move into Mason's video, and then Al is going to have about 7 minutes to talk about, as he said, the additional water quality, and then we'll get into contaminants of concern, where Andrea is going to speak about PFAS, give us a good overview of that, and some of the history there, and where we're at as far as responding to that. And then lead is going to be a segment that Kim McNamara is going to talk about. And after that, they too are going to get into talking about, Kim will talk a little bit about source water protection, and we have a household hazardous waste day. We have 2 of them, so that's why it says days. We have them in the spring, and actually this meeting on the 3rd will be good because the household hazardous waste day is, I'll look for the chat because Stephanie can say when it is. I think it's
May 3rd?
no, it's
Oh, I'm
May
sorry.
21st or something like that. So anyway, and then Al's going to talk a little about water filtration and additional water testing if those in the room want something beyond what we've provided as far as information and the treatment that we provide. And then Andrea is going to finish off by covering these meetings and hopefully opportunity to get people that might be eager to join us to volunteer, and then also the other forums and information. So Andrea, if I didn't say that well enough, you can add to that, but you're shaking your head, so great, thank you. And then we'll go back to some interactive polling. So I think the second half of interactive polling will be more, kind of a feedback time. How was the forum? What should we do this again? And then maybe additional, suggestions for that. I mean, it kind of, that's a thought. I mean, we'll by then I think we might have our water quality report printed, and we can hand that out to people. We'll be going live soon after. The report itself, we have last year's report, which is very detailed anyway. I think between now and the meeting, we've got almost a full 2 weeks. We can, get additional feedback. What I'll do is send these questions out. Andrea had a good round of second questions, so we'll kind of vet all those. And I think we've got a subcommittee, which is myself, Andrea, Al, and Kim. When we meet again, we'll narrow these down to, just 10 minutes each time. So that's kind of the gist of it at the moment. So some shaking heads here. Yes, Counselor.
I saw that you have a segment on distribution system.
Yes.
But I guess what I wondered about it is if that's going to touch on the maintenance, the updating, security, and then also the responsibilities. I know that the responsibilities from my house to the main is my responsibility, where the city's responsibility ends and
Okay.
begins.
Oh, Kevin's bringing the mic up. Oh, all right. Good question. Council Lombardi was saying a bit more of the mechanics of the water as it gets to a customer and who's responsible for what. So yes, we do have that information. So I will make sure to throw that into my segment, and that'll be good. And how we maintain, we're responsible just so far, and then others. Okay, great. Any suggestions out there in Zoom land?
Brian, could I just make a comment
Sure.
for Laurel and others? When it says source water protection is coming under me, but I think Al kind of covered that with the purchase of property around Bellamy River and the Madbury water supply and stuff. I'm really addressing more household, groundwater protection from household activities and how people cannot do things on their property that potentially contaminate the water table. And of course, it's only 5 minutes, and so it's really going to be quite topical, but I will also include things like, reduce the amount of cleaners and household chemicals and activities you do outside, like change oil, and slip the precautionary principles sort of in there about all these unregulated chemicals that we don't know the health effects. I also need a definition of household hazardous waste. I think I found one I like very well, but I'll run that by the group. And that's accompanied by a list of types of things to bring to Household Hazardous Waste Day, but I'll still need that slide from you, Brian, you and Alex.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's on our to-do list. So we do have a draft of the segment for Andrea and Kim, and for those two, I think by the end of the week I'll get that out to both of you. And next week will be crunch time to get everything finalized, but I think we'll get there. Okay. Well, great. Let me go back to our. So yeah, so we just started getting the word out last couple days. So this is actually a screenshot of the website. The forum itself. So again, this meeting, we're getting the word out, and we're going to do our best to hopefully get a good turnout on the 3rd. So legislative review. So David, do you want to take the? There is a portable mic there, or would you be more comfortable coming up here and taking my spot for a little bit?
Thank you. So basically here, what I was going to do is review some of the bills that are currently in front of the House and the Senate. There are a bunch of them that have been acted on already. There are probably about a dozen or so that are still alive, and probably of those, probably about 5 or 6 are really going to be of concern to people in this meeting. Some of them are related to regulation of PFAS, others around lead in drinking water. So I just wanted to make sure that those are on everybody's radar. And the other thing that I wanted to do a little bit is just make people aware that this is an issue that we do deal with in the legislature. It's not a particularly easy issue to deal with, but one of the reasons why New Hampshire has some of actually the toughest standards in the country when it comes to PFAS is because people in the legislature took action 3 years ago to make that happen. So we are in a position to make a difference, and we try to. Sometimes it can be a process of fits and starts, and at the beginning of the year we might have 25 water-related bills, and if 4 of them get through to get signed by the governor, that's usually a pretty good year. But that gives you an idea of kind of what the process is like. So what I'll do is I'll go through some of the key ones that didn't make it through, some of the key ones that look like they are on their way, and what I might do is take a couple from the 2021 session that did get through and just describe what those are as well. And one question for you, Brian, is when do you need my slides?
I think Andrea had her hand up, and so did Laurel. Or not. So David, I think maybe we got confused with the May 3rd because it was actually just to talk about them tonight as part of the swag and maybe not so much during the forum.
Oh, not during, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I misunderstood you.
That's okay.
Okay, actually I do have them up and I can talk for a little while about them. Let me come over to my spreadsheet here. So we have one so far that has made it through. It's an appropriation for the Department of Environmental Services to fund wastewater projects. That's a bill that typically does get funded from year to year. That's already been passed and signed by the governor. There are several bills relating to the treatment and remediation of PFAS contaminants in Merrimack Village as a result of the St. Gobain incident with PFAS. HB 478 has passed in the House. It's now in the Senate. and it would require the company to actually pay for remediation of water in wells in Merrimack that it contaminated. Yesterday we heard on the news that the company was required to send bottled water to about 1,000 households. This would actually require that they do something about the pollution itself. Others. There's a bill related to cyanobacterial blooms in New Hampshire. These are the blooms that we see in lakes and ponds. We sort of tend to think of them as algae, but there's a lot of other stuff in there in addition to algae, and not a lot of it is very good for people or fish. It's a big concern in some of our lakes, and this is one we've been able to actually get a lot of bipartisan agreement on. It's passed in the House. It's now in the Senate, HB 1066, and the prospects look pretty good for that one. There's also a bill that would directly affect wastewater treatment plants. It would require providers of discharges, such as industrial or commercial facilities or septic haulers, to actually test those discharges for PFAS before they discharge it into a local sewer system or provide it to a treatment plant. That's HB 1175. That has passed in the House and actually has received an ought-to-pass recommendation in the Senate committee. And that was a unanimous 5-0 recommendation. I would say the odds of that going through look pretty good at this point. HB 1471 would require schools and licensed child care facilities to submit lead test results to the Department of Environmental Services and notify parents of children who have parents of children who actually test high on lead levels. That bill has passed in the House and it has also passed in the Senate, and it looks like that could well be on its way to becoming law. So essentially what this bill would do is to make is essentially to take a process I think that many schools are going through now, and just to make it more consistent, to provide some consistency around the notification process as well. And it also specifies that this needs to be done on regular intervals. So not just a one-time thing, but it actually specifies periods when this needs to happen. Some of the surface quality standards for perfluorinated chemicals, and those are an issue. Surface water quality is an issue with Cookley landfill, where there's surface water runoff, and some of the other PFAS sites around New Hampshire. There are a couple bills in the legislature. HB 1440 is one of them, that is where we're basically trying to get the Department of Environmental Services to set standards for surface water as they have for drinking water. That's proving to be a little bit difficult. That particular bill has been recommended for interim study, which essentially means that it's not going to happen this year. There are also some efforts that would require more transparency in labeling when it comes to consumer products containing PFAS. So I was actually co-sponsor of a bill, HB 1442, that would have required warning labels on products containing PFAS. The reason for that is we have landfills that have PFAS products dating back to the 80s, and a lot of people don't know at this point whether or not the products they buy contain PFAS or not. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. The idea is that if we could affect consumer behavior and get people to actually look for products that don't have PFAS in them, and maybe not to use their consumer purchasing power to basically feed the problem, we might get out of this sort of endless loop where we're paying lots of money to remediate PFAS problems that were created back in the 80s and 90s, while we continue to put more and more PFAS into the ground and into the environment ourselves. So that's something that is not going to happen this year. My guess is that bill will be back in some form later this year. Others that are, let me see.
So Kim had a question, I see.
Yes.
Here, David, what is the House bill number regarding the lead in daycares?
Let me look that up again. That would be 1421, and that would require schools and licensed child care facilities to submit lead test results. So licensed child care facilities would also be included in this.
Okay. Andrea's got a couple questions.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that overview. I have one question about the wastewater bill that you were talking about. I'm just curious, you had talked about industrial discharges, I think, and septic haulers, but would a city like Portsmouth be affected by this wastewater bill is the first question. And then the second question regarding that is, do we know, does Portsmouth test our wastewater now for PFAS? And if so, is that data available?
So I do not know I would assume that.
Yeah, I've reviewed those bills, and yeah, they would apply to any wastewater facility.
The law would apply to would basically apply to any facility that accepts wastewater for this reason. What I'm not sure of is whether that's something that we're already doing in Portsmouth.
We are not, because there's not a direct mechanism at the moment, guidance on what to do, and so we're waiting for that. But there has been, the state has done a study of a number of systems, ours included, and they've all got PFAS. I mean, the wastewater, the sources aren't just on the supply side for wastewater. They're literally, people's products, cleaning agents, your Gore-Tex getting washed in the laundry, car waxes, things like floor waxes, all kinds of stuff. So, and then there are industrial manufacturers that use it in some of their processes. So this is something that I think the legislature, it's probably come up, I would think, David, with the legislature regarding, that point that it's really then going to be everywhere.
I think a lot of what we try to do in the legislature, we know that the Department of Environmental Services doesn't have an easy job. We know that they're not terribly well funded. And I think one of the things that we do try to do is we try to listen to people. We try to get input from our communities. And what we do try to do through legislation is to try to help the department set priorities. So I think the PFAS standards that we set a few years ago are a very, very good example of that. States have the ability to pass more stringent environmental regulations sometimes than what we have on the federal level, and we've chosen to do that in New Hampshire because we have a problem. It's not something that we do all the time, but it's something that we can do, and it's something that can make a difference. Especially because the federal government, when it comes to things like regulating PFAS and regulating contaminants, it's literally like trying to turn an aircraft carrier around. So I wouldn't call state government particularly nimble, but we're a little bit more nimble sometimes than the federal government can be, and that's why we see legislation at the state level.
Do you have any follow-up, Andrea?
I just have one more question. I was curious if there's any bills currently pending regarding agriculture and PFAS and biosludge. I know in Maine, there's been a lot of national press about farms being impacted from biosludge and, not only drinking water, but animals as well, food sources, things like that. So we haven't heard too much about farms in New Hampshire, and I was curious if there are any upcoming bills or anything we should be aware of on that front.
Not in this particular session. I think that has been raised. It has been raised before. Certainly, that could be something that a bill could be created for in the next session. I know that leachate from runoffs from dump sites and things like that is another issue that a lot of people are concerned about, and that we're not only concerned about leachate from our own dumps going into the water supply, but sometimes what happens is we actually package up the leachate in tankers and haul it to other states where it can get dumped as well. So in general, there are a bunch of practices that go on right now regarding the treatment of leachates, and which basically is the contaminated runoff and water from dumps that are contaminated with chemicals like PFAS. There's a lot of concern about those going into the environment, the lack of regulation around it, the lack of guidance around it. I know DES is working on this, and again, sometimes in the legislature we're in a position to help move things along. So if there are things that people think need to be moved along faster than they're currently moving, you definitely get in touch with me or some of the other legislators that are working on this issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Laurel, you had your hand up, Laurel.
Yeah, just to go back to the promotion for the event, I put a note in the chat too, but I was wondering if there were other outreach efforts that were happening, for instance, with schools. Like, I think kind of virtual tours could be really educational, and I can see teachers giving credit for attending or something like that. So I was wondering if there was any other outreach beyond kind of just putting it on the website to get people to come.
Yeah, I think we will. We'll be getting. We have a school board member on our group, Hope Van Epps, and she wasn't able to make it tonight, but I think she'll help with that. And then we'll also work through Stephanie Secord, outreach coordinator for the city. So you know, we'll do our best in the next couple of weeks to get that out. So for everybody on Zoom, we've been joined by Councilor Blaylock. Thank you for making it. Nice night for baseball. To go into you'd probably a good night to go into extra innings almost.
Yeah, we turned around early, so.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, good. Well, welcome. So the format for everybody here, and just for your sake, we went to this format because we're sort of doing a rehearsal of how the water forum will work. So you missed out a little bit in the interactive polling, but you'll have opportunity on May 3rd to do that. And we've been testing the technology so that we can both have people here, we can have remote participants, and so far it seems to be working. So, so we're happy about that. In this respect, future Safe Water Advisory Group meetings we'll probably be back at Council Room A, and everybody be at a table, and it won't be as chunky for the interactive portion, but it seems to be working tonight, and we definitely wanted to try this so that May 3rd wasn't just the first time that we tried technically to do this. Anyway, we'll move into the next segment of our, let's see, so Al and I are going to give everyone here the latest, greatest update. So we did share with you over the email, oh shoot, there we go, this update. So Al and I are going to walk you through some of the highlights of where we stand for the first quarter of the year, We're into Q2 already. And I'll just start out by saying that water-wise, we're in fairly good shape. So hopefully this isn't the year that we have to talk drought again, like we did last year. We're sitting at 45.5 inches. That was through March. So basically, when I say how much water this year, each month creates a new year. So it's easiest for us to track and trend how we're doing by just looking at a rolling 12-month average. And you can see on the chart at the right where we were really helped out by a very wet July and then a wet October. January through, actually, you can see recent months have been actually below normal, but everything kind of evens out. So this is how it is in New England. I've lived in New England for almost 25 years now, and you have average, and the average is the difference between the low and the high. There is no average. There is no normal weather in New Hampshire. 25 years I've been here, and every year has been different. And next year will be different, and the year after that. But for us, this helps. So you can see what we do is we track stream flows. This is a USGS chart. And what I'll do here is, so basically this is the Oyster River, which is adjacent to the Bellamy, but this thing's been recorded over 100 years, so there's a really good average to say, you know, what is an average year and month by month of flow. So you have this kind of reverse bell curve of, you know, wet, April, getting dry, August, September, October, and then picking back up. Then the green is, you know, average. The light blue is a little bit above average, and the darker blue is the high flows. And then likewise at the bottom you have this orange and then this really darker brown. And these are historical records. So basically these two extremes are from the histogram of what the flows have been, but the black line is the current year. So as you can see, last year we were really riding pretty low and almost historic low as we entered July, and then boom, we shot right back up because we got 10 inches of rain, and then it sort of stayed up, got a little bit drier, and then October, same thing, we got lots of precipitation. So these last 9-10 months, we've been doing good, and this has really helped with recharge. But the interesting thing is, no sooner do we do something like put this update out, and you know, I'm going to show you this graph. It's a continuum. So these are just the last few months, and you can see it was starting to get dry again. It was the flows were starting to go down. But then we just got these recent rains here in April. We're at about 4 inches so far in April. So these are ways that Al and I track things, and then we see this in what the reservoir flows are doing and what our groundwater levels are doing. So I'll shift it over to Al to cover a couple more slides here.
Sure. So yeah, this is the long-term record of our water demands. This goes all the way back to the 1950s here. And you see how things have been dropping off recently. Our demands have been going down for many reasons. Primarily, we've been fixing a lot of pipes and a lot of leaks in pipes. And you could also attribute this to a lot more efficient fixtures these days too. So we're seeing that. I can't imagine that the trend's going to keep going down. I suspect we're going to level off here where we're at. And last year was one of our record low years since probably, what, the 1970s or something?
85.
Even beyond that. Yeah, so. So that's that. And one thing about this year too, just going back about the reservoir, water quality has been excellent this year. Our surface water so far, we've been able to take more water from our reservoir and rest our wells. So the water levels, I don't know if there's a slide for this, but the water levels in the groundwater are higher than average right now. So we're set up. If there is a drought, I should be knocking on wood right now that, you know, if we do have a drought, our groundwater supplies are in good shape to help us this year if that were to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have enough time to put the water demand slide in there. Andrew's got a comment. Let's see.
And the next slide has the
rebates, water efficiency. Yes, and I will cover this at the forum. So we continue to have the water efficiency rebates, so customers can get a $100 rebate on installing a low flow toilet to replace an older one, and then if they get a high efficiency washing machine, and there's qualifying ones that qualify, they can also get a $150 rebate. So to date we've got over 1,000, and you know, we're still the only, we've been doing this going on 8 years now, and no other systems in New Hampshire are doing those rebates. Now, there's a lot of them throughout the country that have. We can't take credit for being, you know, the only ones around the country, but we'll push that. We'll definitely. So Al, you can cover some PFAS here.
Sure. So the table here is a summary of since we do a quarterly running average of our PFAS. This is the way it's regulated in New Hampshire. We're obviously looking at individual data as it comes in and to see if there's any unusual data, but we look at the running annual average. So this table basically shows the regulated compounds in each of our sources. Nothing too unusual here. You notice the Portsmouth well has the highest PFOA and PFH excess, and it has been that way. Other wells, Collins actually went down a little bit during this quarter. So that we're monitoring that. And then of course the Pease treatment plants in operation at this point. We have over 163 million gallons has gone through that plant. And we're continuing monitoring there.
I'm trying to advance here. There we go.
And source protection, this is an ongoing efforts here, trying to work with landowners and protect more land. We had the 2 successful easements, one in 2018 and one in 2020. There was another opportunity that came up not too long ago that we had done a lot of work on, and we're hoping we would get it into an easement or we would purchase the land outright. And unfortunately, the landowner was offered more money by a developer, so they went ahead. And thankfully, it's just going to be a one-house. For now, it's just going to be a one-house lot. I believe it was about a 50-acre lot on the Bellamy River, so it's upstream a little bit. So unfortunately, that one got away, but we are continuing to work with landowners to try to protect more. We've also been working and had conversations with the state about the way the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund is working to help land protection and trying to make that a little easier for us to be able to get the funds and make it a more simplified process, I should say. So we're hoping to keep protecting land around the reservoir as much as we can, and work into the watershed a little bit deeper too, because you know there's 2 primary tributaries that feed the Bellamy Reservoir, and so any large development on either of those tributaries would be have potential to impact the water quality of the reservoir.
Right, and we do have the ongoing one close to the intake that we're going to be pursuing. We're working with Town of Madbury and Southeast Land Trust to get that. So hopefully we'll have opportunity to bring this to the council yet this year.
Yep.
The property that we're looking at, we don't want to talk publicly too much about
I wouldn't go there yet.
Thank you.
Right now.
This is the hardest part of it, but like we got to be quicker than the people that might try to be opportunistic. So we've been real fortunate. Al's been awesome, and Southeast Land Trust and the Town of Madbury have been the best partners, because Town of Madbury wants to do the same thing that we're doing, which is they want to protect this reservoir, and so they've been very helpful. In the Southeast Land Trust, of course, that's their business, and they do it very well. So these other two properties that we've gotten conservation easements on, we're going to try to do it for this third property as well. So go for it, Al, right?
Working on it. Projects, I could talk about this. So it was a very exciting day today. We had our new building, we had prefab building delivered and installed for our Madbury Wells 4R. It's a replacement well for our well 4 in Madbury. And our most recent well, I think well 5 was being drilled back in 2015 when I started working here. And finally we're connecting to the system. It's gone through all its permitting. And we're at the point where we will be able to tie it in within the next month or two. We're hoping after doing some testing and doing all the final piping work. So that is, I think the substantial completion right now date is July 1st, but we're on schedule to finish even before that. So that's exciting. We'll have those two new sources ready to go. Collins Well 2, this is another well that's in the Collins Well field. We have the Collins Well there. It's dropped off in capacity over the years. So this Collins Well 2 is to augment that capacity and bring it back to the 450 gallons a minute that source has provided in the past. The pumping testing is postponed until the fall of 2022 for all of that, to make sure we have everything in place to do that testing. We want to make sure we're testing a lot of the monitoring wells that the Air Force has in the area, and really helping to determine where the water is coming from and how that could impact the area when we're pumping the new well. Part of the permitting process there. And Brian, I'll let you take the Little Bay water line. That's
our ongoing project. So it's still, we're still working on getting our wetlands permit for that. So we anticipate construction in 2023. But another project which we've gotten some good traction with is this one. So I believe I've talked about this in the advisory group. North of us are 4 communities that have public drinking water system, from Rochester down to Dover. And then south we have us, Newcastle, Rye, Northampton, Hampton, down to Seabrook. So all of our systems, so we're interconnected with Rye. So there are times we have actually, when the Haven well went down, Rye was able to provide additional water to us for about 2 weeks, which helped us get over the hump on a critical time there. And likewise, if they need water, we can pump it the other way. And they are a stone's throw from the Hampton system interconnection-wise, so in an emergency they can be interconnected. But there is no pipe between the systems in the north and the systems on the south. The pipe that goes from Madbury into Newington is just a supply pipe for us. It doesn't connect at all to Dover. So they're doing the Little Bay Bridge, which is the final replacement of the General Sullivan, and we've been working hard to say put a pipe on that bridge. When you put it in, well, DOT doesn't have the funds to do it themselves, but they've been real cooperative in saying, well, we will support one if it comes our way. So we've been progressing along. Most recently went to the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund and got $223,000 from that commission to do the design. And so design is happening here for the next year and a half, and they anticipate constructing in 2024. And by that time, we're hoping to get some more money. So, we're pitching this as a regional project. So it wouldn't be to say, oh, Dover's going to give Portsmouth water or vice versa. It's literally, if there's an emergency between our systems here, we'd have the capability of getting water. And they're putting a bridge there. They put the other two bridges are there, and there's nothing we can do about a pipe at the moment. And if we had an emergency where we had to get water over the bridge, we'd be stringing, temporary pipe up there. So again, I think with all this federal infrastructure monies, the president was in town yesterday, and it was just a great day, and shovel-ready project. So this one is. It's like, gee, but it will be, with the amount of pipe and the pumping and and all that, all in, it's right now estimated around $9 million. So that's a chunk of money. And Dover has, what we're pitching is the fact that, because to just say, grant us the money for these two systems, we're saying, well, this is a regional thing, so it's for the entire region, it's for the state, for that matter, and it's a worthy project for the state or the federal government to fund because of the nature of the interconnection and the long-term viability of all the communities. So we think it's worthy of getting the money for that. So that's not to say that us and Dover wouldn't be somewhat saying yes. It's kind of something that we could pitch in a bit, and we'd certainly pitch it to council, but really foot the bill. We're all spending, as Dover is, we've spent $45 million, and I'll cover this a little bit in the forum, but we've spent $45 million in the last 20 years on water system improvements. And if we were asking for a pipe across the bridge because we hadn't spent that money and we were in dire straits, that'd be a different story, than to say, oh, give us money because we didn't do our job here, but that really isn't the case. This came up. I'm trying to. I'm working with Al and our field staff. It's come up, and Andrea during our last meeting said Laura has to drop off. See you, Laurel. Thanks for joining us. So flushing. So we do notice people that we're out there flushing, which we are tonight. We're flushing in the south end of the city. But what we're trying to work on is, so this is a photo I took today down in our foreman's office, and so you can see how he tracks where we've flushed, and we generally go the south part of town in this area, and you can see this particular area in the Pease Newington area, we're on hold. That's because they're out sampling for lead and copper at the moment, so they'll be doing this probably in 2 or 3 weeks. But they work in the outer perimeter of the system and then work their way into the interior of town and then Newcastle. And that's basically to flush the outer parts before you get the inside, because then you'd just be pushing this dirty water from the inside out. So you go outside in and that. But what we're trying to work on is hopefully maybe this fall or in maybe spring of next year, have a way that we can more interactively tell people where we're going to be flushing so that they won't have to say, oh, they're going to be coming by sometime. Certainly, we flush from 7 to 11, and you can get an idea of where we're at by just our vehicles and stuff. So, pardon? AM? PM. Yes. Yes. And it looks like we haven't quite come to the interior part of town. So they'll move down here to the waterfront, and then they'll go in here, and then probably in about 2 or 3 weeks they'll start getting into the center of town. So Andrea, I'll turn it over to you for the PFPRA, and Al and I are both on. We can talk about our follow-up sampling too.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much. So yeah, just wanted to give you all a brief update on PFPRA, and I'll just start by reminding you all of what that is. So last summer, I was given the opportunity to send in 1 tap sample as part of a pilot study with a national environmental group called the NRDC, where they were testing tap samples from known PFAS impacted communities all over the country. And they were using a new testing method that a national lab called Eurofins was using to test for 70 PFAS. So typically the lab that the city has used, the Air Force, they usually test for about 30 compounds, give or take a few. So this 70 PFAS compound list is more, more analytes and obviously gives us more data. And so in that one tap sample that we had sent in from the city of Portsmouth, it showed a PFAS that we had never heard of or had been detected before in our system called PFPRA. It's a short chain PFAS at 35 parts per trillion in that one tap sample. And so again, that certainly is a new data point and a new finding for us, but we also recognized it was one tap sample in time, and we certainly needed to resample so we could confirm that result and see what source it might be coming from, things like that. And so as part of that sample, a community member from Merrimack also sent in a tap sample, and they also detected PFPRA in that tap sample at 42 parts per trillion. So that'll be important in the next slide when we get there. But so after getting these results, myself and the Merrimack resident who also sent in a sample advocated and wrote a letter to DES, New Hampshire DES and the EPA, asking them to help fund some additional sampling because the Eurofins samples cost about $1,000 a sample, so it's kind of expensive. It's not something, it's again, not the lab the city routinely uses. And so we did get them to agree. And that's the update that we had given all of you back in February when we met, was that the EPA and the New Hampshire DES did agree to run 10 more samples between Portsmouth and Merrimack. They would do a couple tap samples as well as look at some of the source water. And they agreed to just test for PFPRA. So they didn't agree to do the full 70 list that Eurofins did, just that one particular PFAS. And so, Brian, if you want to go to the next slide, in March, New Hampshire DES did come out and take samples. They took another tap sample in Portsmouth. They took a couple source water samples in Portsmouth, and then they did some more sampling in Merrimack. And they split the samples, and they sent some to Eurofins to test for PFPRA, and then the other half of the samples went to, or the same samples are getting tested. The first is going to Eurofins, and then the same water is also going to be tested at the EPA, I think at their Office of Research and Development, which is down in North Carolina. And so New Hampshire DES gathered those samples back in March, and we have the Eurofins data back so far. And the samples are very different. So what we wanted to report to you was that in the tap sample from Portsmouth in the summer of 2021, there was 35 parts per trillion of PFPRA detected, but in the March sample of our tap sample here in Portsmouth, they only detected 2.1 PFPRA. And then they did also test 2 additional water sources in Portsmouth, and they also found, again, low levels of 2.1 to 2.6 parts per trillion of PFPRA. Again, in that first sample last summer, we never tested the sources. So that's new data for us. But what's also interesting to me in the repeat data was, again, Merrimack was 42 parts per trillion last summer. And then in the repeat sample, they were only 3.3 parts per trillion. So we don't have the EPA data back yet, so that'll be another lab who's analyzing the same water, and it'll be interesting to see what they might get. But I think where we're at is the repeat sampling is underway. The Eurofins sampling has been sent out, and the results have come back, and they're different than what they were last summer. And I think it just has left us with a bit more questions and answers at this point. And I don't know if Brian and Al want to add anything to this discussion, but I think it's just something I'm curious to see what the EPA is going to find in that sampling. And then from there, we can continue to keep you updated as more information comes in.
I don't see Al unmuting. There he goes.
Yeah, I'll unmute. Just a couple of comments. It is really interesting. The questions come up, is it a time-related thing? And it was there and now it's not there? Or is it a laboratory thing? I know there were some questions about what method did they use? Between EPA and Eurofins trying to get their methods squared away, because there isn't a certified method for this particular parameter. So it's a head scratcher. What's next?
Mm-hmm. Now, the one question I have too is Eurofins is a national lab, so they have several locations across the country. the sample that was sent last summer versus the sample that was sent in March, were they processed at the same Eurofins lab? Is it possible it was different equipment? I know PFAS equipment has to be calibrated, and so I just wonder if it was potentially two different labs, even though under the Eurofins umbrella. So again, I think it's just left me with a lot more questions and answers, which I was kind of hoping it would either confirm the result or and it's just, we still don't really have a lot to say at this point, other than to report that partial data is back. We're waiting for the EPA data, and hopefully it'll give us some more information. But I will say, I think, and I've said this to Brian too, there's a lot of attention on PFAS right now. There's a lot of resources and money being thrown at PFAS. We know in the infrastructure bill, $10 billion got put aside to address PFAS across the nation. And we are seeing more labs trying to become more advanced in how many PFAS they can test for, because again, PFAS is a large class. So when we only look for 30, we're not really, that's not giving us the whole picture when it comes to PFAS. And so I think we are going to see over time more labs being able to test for more compounds, and then we may find ourselves in the situation where we are detecting more PFAS that we didn't know were there. And so I think this is a good exercise for us in the city to start understanding what that's going to look like as things come down the pike, and that there will be more opportunities to test and look for more, and is that data valid, and what does it mean, and it'll again raise more questions. But I'm glad that we're at the forefront of trying to find out more information.
Yeah, I'll add, Andrea, that the thing about the laboratory stuff, and I know Brandon. So we don't have the regulators here, but I know we've had Brandon Kernan from DES, who's been at the forefront of this with us a number of times, and he's very much been a part of this as well. And also Jonathan Alley from DES doing the toxicological data, and both of these at the forefront of this is the information which. Toxicologically, you get a new compound, and it takes years to really, know what effect it might have in the environment or in your body. And likewise, these sample methods. So I know the struggle, people have with EPA, and states have really gotten out there with setting standards for PFAS, and there's criticism of the EPA saying, look, why aren't you regulating this more? But they go through such a strict process that then they have to dictate to the labs methods and quality controls, and we're down in the parts per trillion. So, it's a very fine science that, you can't just, go to Amazon and get a test kit for. So, we have been on cutting edge a lot of this. I know when this first started for us 8 years ago, we sampled for more of the parameters available at the time than EPA had, and we at the time were able to kind of be at the forefront of that. So, I don't know whether the labs are getting ahead of us or we're behind in other ways, but as Andrea said, we'll continue to do our best to be on top of it. I think as I've said many times before, it's if I had the crystal ball or the ability, it would be where is the PFAS everywhere, and give us a context of the extent we're dealing with this. As I mentioned with wastewater, it's in wastewater all around the country. Michigan really got out in front on this when they dealt with the issues there that they had. And so it's, continuing to evolve for sure. That was it for tonight. We wanted to thank everybody, but certainly we don't have anybody from the public, but certainly comments from this group are certainly welcome right now. And about the forum format, the videos, the polling, Councilor Blaylock Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone on their hard work on this. And I do appreciate that we are out in front of the PFAS and that we are kind of breaking the ceiling as far as discovering what is actually out there. The hard part is that it's hard to get ahead of the labs, obviously, and ahead of the EPA, where the city of Portsmouth can't exactly be the research facility. But obviously, we've been doing a fantastic job keeping right behind them and encouraging the EPA and the labs to do more testing and test for more of these PFAS. But I just want to thank Brian and Al and Andrea for all your work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything to add, Andrea, as we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. Just again, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for your feedback on our draft agenda. And if you have any thoughts after tonight in terms of the format or questions for the Slido, the polling, or just any general feedback, so we can make that community forum as helpful and resourceful for people as possible, we really appreciate it.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. For Andrea and Kim and Al, I'll be sending the updated PowerPoint to you that we'll work on. And for everybody in the Safe Water Advisory Group, I'll send an email out with all these questions, and we'll keep you updated on the revised agenda as it gets forward. And we'll look forward to a little less than 2 weeks from now, hopefully having a good turnout here for the forum itself. Okay. Thanks, everybody.